What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo on a Monday, too. This is a 3-video kind of day, but this one was a long time coming. This is just like my overall thoughts on what this disclosure movement has been for me over the last year. When I first got into this, I thought that disclosure was like the noblest of efforts to release information about UFOs to the public. But what I found was something entirely different and with so many nuances that I needed some time to process and to see how many open fronts there are, because ufology is one of the most deceitful places where you can get yourself into. There's a lot of interest involved. There's this race to become the person who says we are not alone and get that credit for it. We know that there are like open fronts. Before 2017, I get the sense that there weren't many government people involved in this disclosure effort. There were many researchers, there were scientists, there was Dr. Stephen Greer, but there weren't many like official capacity government people trying to get UFO transparency. That New York Times article meant that people on an official capacity from the government were finally getting involved. But that didn't come without tribulations. Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, those are people from the government who are doing this effort jointly. And there's also military personnel like Ryan Graves, Commander David Fravor, David Grush. Now, Jake Barber is not as official because he was part of a Black Ops team, but he's also come forward lately. And there's a bunch of people from either the intelligence community or the military who have been involved in this for a while now. And it's really hard to tell who has the really genuinely good intentions. Another open front is private enterprises, billionaires, millionaires, oligarchs who are getting themselves involved in this. I've told you in previous videos, there's people from major corporations or startups who are already starting to allocate money for new technology. This Ecosystemic Futures Podcast is already talking about UFO-derived technology very matter-of-factly.
We found that they were layered alloys at the micron levels, and none of our technologists, even in the big aerospace corporations, could make these layers bond together. So just by their physical construction, we could tell it was way beyond anything that had been manufactured in our ordinary technology here on Earth.
Yeah, that's what I saw too. You were looking at the outside of a craft or materials that came from a crashed spacecraft or something?
Yes.
Yeah, so we were looking at very little things. They seem to deposit all over the world. We weren't estimating there's probably trillions of these things that are deposited, and they have all sorts of functions, which really kind of implies that maybe this group is actually manipulating our species. But you can still acquire those. You know where to look for them. We know how to find them.
Well, if you find a hatful, why don't you send them our way and we'll take a look at them.
Yeah, that's it. So the group I used to work with, I don't talk with anymore because they got upset at me for talking. So, but I have an idea where someone could get them.
I guess what you're saying, Richard, is they're ubiquitous, right? And so there's a variety of sources in terms of where to get these.
Yeah. We were assuming that they're everywhere, right? Even the ones that would work, we would never be able to find because they would cloak themselves or reconfigure themselves to be something, but not all of them are functional, right? I'm CEO of Field Propulsion Technologies. My background is electrical engineering and mathematics. And 40 years ago, I was involved in a company, the part owner that used to do reverse engineering. And one of the things that came out of there is some of the NGOs that were trying to reverse engineer advanced technologies that pinged us to look at some of the stuff they had. And that got me really curious because this stuff was definitely way more advanced than we actually have. So one of the things that ended up is I ended up getting pulled into classified programs. And there, one of the things I wanted to look at was to see if the U.S. government actually was using these technologies. And it turned out that my conclusion was the U.S. government was not. So the ones I worked with were trying to figure out how these rather large craft, which people call triangles, would be able to disappear on a dime. So when we were set up looking at these triangles, when they decloaked and they recloaked, we didn't see anything like that. What we really saw was it appeared to be that these triangles were taking whatever was, an example would be whatever was behind them and actually projecting it in front of them, which might be equivalent to taking their light rays and bending it around the actual triangle. And so our conclusion, they were doing something along those lines. They were probably doing it with a lot less energy. But some of the conditions we observed them on was a lot of times where they were observing behind them would be a little different than what we would be observing. So what they would do is we would assume would be projecting what's behind them in front of them, but it really wouldn't be quite what we would be seeing. And then we had an idea that we could probably track these triangles because their cloak or whatever they're using to bend the light around them was never going to be exactly the same. So some of that work that I was doing with NGOs was really exciting. But one of the other things that comes out of this is these individuals or whoever this group is that has this advanced technology probably does not want us to reverse engineer what they're working on. So they're probably using their methods or their technologies to try to keep us from doing things like reverse engineering or exploring how they work, just because of the fact that gives them an advantage over us. They were smart materials. Like one of the things is when these materials, you'd be looking at them and you try to reverse engineer them, that they would turn to dust. And they would do it within a minute or two. And then so you could take the dust and then send it off and get the isotopic analysis done on them. And they were extraterrestrial. But these materials, I mean, we're looking at something that's hundreds of years ahead of us. When you look under a microscope or an electron microscope, you're looking at something that's composed of very small particles that seem to be communicating with one another. So those are the things that I've been involved in that we can talk about. But, I think that's one of the reasons why extraterrestrial materials are not really available to most people, is because most of them are set to disintegrate if they get in the wrong hand. Isotopic analysis of the dust that's left behind tells you it's extraterrestrial, at least where it was manufactured. But so we're looking at materials that can reconfigure themselves. They are composed of small subunits. So the type of things I looked at were something as small as a sliver of metal that would reconfigure itself depending on where it was. It would cloak itself and it would try to blend into the environment. So the ones that this one NGO used to get a hold of were the ones that were technically broken. I guess the ones that didn't really function very well. So then you could collect them every once in a while and then try to analyze them. You could do things like split them apart, but they would attempt to find each other or reconfigure. Some of the experiments they did was we took one of those and we put it on a very hot surface of about 3,000 degrees. And what it would do is it cooled the surface around itself. And then when we took the device off and then weighted again, we would find that the mass would be reduced by a certain amount.
Do these feel like programmed materials to you, Richard?
Yeah, they were, like I was saying, they're more intelligent materials. Like these subunits probably had computational functionality, right? Because they knew what their neighbors were all about, and they knew they could reprogram themselves to be something different, right? If they needed to change themselves. So these are really curious types of materials. So that's how we could kind of tell they were extraterrestrial, because these things weren't like decades ahead of us. They were probably hundreds of years ahead of us.
You've heard some people from NASA who are currently working there talking about like time-space manipulation technology and faster than light communication technology, all of these topics that were allegedly fringe or impossible just a few years ago. So what is happening? I think that real disclosure means that we are supposedly going to change the current paradigm, which is the materialistic paradigm. This means that the current paradigm is under the capitalist model, people who want to make money, essentially. And these people are trying to get involved in the UFO topic so they can monetize aspects of these technologies. So I call that monetized disclosure, because even though we might get more transparency on these issues, that also comes with a race to be first in line to get contracts to monetize some of this technology. Because presumably, and according to what Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon have been saying for years now, there is this type of technology that has been hidden in special access programs or unacknowledged special access programs that need to see the light of day. But in order to see the light of day, that means that the first people that are going to know about this technology are these corporations, because they have power, they have money. That means that we're not going to get out of this materialistic paradigm. We're just going to monetize all of this technology. We're going to remain in the materialistic paradigm. And I don't know if that is the best option for humanity, because that is going to maintain this disparity between people from the first world and people from the third world. These people from the first world, Americans and people from Europe and from the Five Eyes countries, I don't think they really care about the rest of the people from the world. I don't think they care about people from Central America. I don't think they care about poor people from South America. I don't think so. At least that's not what they're showing to me. What they have shown to me so far is that they want to keep this exclusivity of disclosure to just a certain amount of people who have this exclusive access to either information, money, or technology, or also access to government influence. And I don't think that's the best way to approach this. The other aspect of disclosure that I don't think should be even pursued at all, and that's going to be the hardest one to ignore, is weaponized disclosure. Because keep in mind, I know that there's like a select number of aerospace companies who have had access to this technology and either attempted to reverse engineer it or successfully reverse engineer it. But there are a bunch of other companies in aerospace and weapon manufacturers who didn't have access to this over the last 80 years. And when this becomes public, they're going to have access to it. And what are they going to try to do? They're going to weaponize it, and they're going to try and sell these weapons. So that is another type of disclosure that I don't think we should even consider. Then, well, the real disclosure, as I told you, has to do with ending this paradigm. But there are many aspects of disclosure, if it's the real disclosure with a big D, that could, in fact, cause some type of societal disruption. Because if disclosure comes, that means that whatever you based your belief system on might be rocked to the core. This includes religion. This includes your belief system in the current scientific paradigm, which I think will also be changed. I think every aspect of life will change if we get the real disclosure, the one that people before 2017 were trying to get. And after 2017, with the government and major corporations getting more involved, that like completely twisted the whole concept. And I don't think that should be a road that we should all take. I honestly don't think that. And some of these people that are trying to monetize or make it more exclusive, this disclosure effort, I know they're not going to agree with me. All of these people that won't agree with me probably have a conflict of interest, and they don't agree because they want to monetize and to weaponize disclosure. So if they want to get involved in this, and they already are, I already know quite a few people that are like millionaires or billionaires that are very open about their efforts to get disclosure. Some of them even brag about trying to end the materialistic paradigm, but their actions say otherwise. They're trying to make money out of this. They're trying to make it exclusive for just a select group of people, not for everybody. And I would say to those people, if you want to get involved in disclosure and you want to keep doing this in a transparent manner, you need to like lay all the cards on the table, tell the people what your real intentions are, how you plan to monetize this. But I mean, it's okay if you want to monetize it and you don't want to leave the paradigm, just be open about it. And also, obviously, if you want to help but get money out of it, you have to really help people. You have to really like help change whatever is going on in the world right now, because I don't know if you've noticed, but the world is kind of burning up and it's more divided than ever before, both ideologically, economically, philosophically. It's completely polarized. And if you are a person with influence and money and you're trying to help, you need to be transparent and you need to let us know what your intentions are and what you want to do with it. And especially talking to all of these corporations that are like, for example, I'm not going to give names, but you know what I'm talking about. The richest person in the world. This person has constantly said that if aliens exist, they're being very conspicuous. I would know, and all this bullshit, which I think it's bullshit. Because we know that this person has a handler whose pseudonym is Tyler, and it is just impossible that you don't know what's going on. We're not stupid, man. I mean, we can see what you're doing. And you honestly are going to be one of the first in line whenever this disclosure of new technology happens. I would bet that you already have some type of first dips. So just be open and transparent about it, because people get really spooked when they see someone with these type of intentions and like colonizing other planets and all this stuff. That's a little scary, dude. That like dabbles into world domination. And you don't want that, do you? And if you do, let us know so we can at least have a fighting chance. Because honestly, I don't see the world going towards real disclosure right now. And it's really disappointing to see where this is going, especially with all the recent revelations. If psionics are starting to become like more mainstream now, and the crash retrieval operations are becoming more mainstream now too, and you get some type of really impossible to ignore evidence, these corporations and these oligarchs are going to completely take over the situation, and they're going to completely ignore the rest of the people that are currently under really horrible conditions in massive debt, and they're not going to be able to like change their lives as they should if real disclosure happens. Because if real disclosure happens, that means that there's a new source of free energy that will be discovered or has been discovered that needs to go to everybody. It can't be privatized. It can't be monetized. Not anymore. This materialistic paradigm needs to end. You guys need to understand that. And if you don't want to listen, I think that the people are going to respond. And this video is for that. So the people that see this can realize what is happening before their very eyes. Don't be deceived. Yes, you might get some level of transparency from either the current government or from private enterprises. But keep in mind, it doesn't come without some type of caveat. It does. We're not stupid. You guys need to realize that. So I wanted to get this off my chest. I hope I did okay without naming any names. You can guess who I'm talking about. I was pretty clear about one. But there are a bunch of names that are really, really involved with disclosure that claim to have like the best intentions, but they have conflicts of interest. They have their names aligned with other people that don't have the best intentions. So you can take your guess who I'm talking about. And please, you guys need to be more transparent. I'm going to give you guys the benefit of the doubt. And if you come clean, if you tell us what you're really after, that would be really cool because we need to work together. If you don't want to get out of the materialistic paradigm, at least do so thinking that you want to help humanity get out of this shithole that we're very much immersed in right now, because it's bad, guys. It's really bad. So let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think disclosure with the real big D will happen? Or do you think we're going to get monetized or weaponized disclosure? What's it going to be? Do you think we're not getting disclosure at all? Because it's not just from the government that it's possible now. It's from private enterprises who are getting very much involved. They have a lot of power. So, and also just a little.
It is not about you getting credit for submitting the document, or you're mad because you're not one of the witnesses to testify. It's not that at all. It's about controlling the narrative, and it's a little frightening about where it's going to go. What comes across to me is there's a power grab, a changing of the guard. If these materials that we're talking about, both the images that were collected by Immaculate Constellation and the metamaterials, crash saucers, those things, the holy grail, the goodies, are changing hands from the aerospace companies that have stashed that stuff for decades to the tech and space folks who are coming in with the new Trump administration and who have great influence in Congress. That's a big deal. It's a big story.
Yeah. And I think that is what we're seeing. This does come down to money and power or control over the technology. I know people might not be there yet, but that is the actual functional reality that we're living in.
Cherry on top here. The whole AI revolution is going to play a huge role in this. So keep that in mind too, because we need to also be very aware of the implications of this in the context of UFO disclosure. So keep that in mind too. And thank you for the support. If you want to support the channel in any way, I'm going to leave a few links in the description. And we have a members channel too. But if you like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon, that's more than enough. So thank you guys. And that's going to be it for me today. I'm going to leave you until tomorrow with a new video. Remember, guys, stay curious. Bye.